This video is sponsored by Squarespace. We are back. The 2025 Formula 1 season is almost upon us. So let's get predicting, shall we? All 20 drivers, all 10 teams, who's going to finish where for the 6th year on the trot now. Come a long way since December 2019, eh? Much more beardy now. My name's Tommo. Let's talk about it. Okay, let's start with a few special categories before we get into the meat and bones of it. Starting with most improved, Liam Lawson. The Kiwi made a huge impression deputising for Daniel Ricciardo in a 5-race stint towards the end of 2023. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't enough to get a full-time seat in 24, but it was enough for him to prove he's got some competence, some capability there, and replace Daniel Ricciardo entirely for the final 6 races of 2024. Now, I think Liam did well, particularly in 23 with the context of his lack of preparation, but it was the same case in 24, really. He was chucked in when it was decided that, you know what, Daniel Ricciardo, this is a non-starter. He was very close to Yuki Tsunoda's pace and arguably in some metrics quicker. At least that's what Red Bull are saying. But did he blow people's minds? Did he blow my mind? Not really. The consensus is Yuki deserved that Red Bull seat over Liam, and I completely understand why. However, I am backing Liam to do a better job in that Red Bull, in that second car, the cursed seat, whatever you want to call it, a better job than Pierre, than Alex, and Sergio ever did. He's a Red Bull Junior who's tested that RB1819 over its various different guises in practice sessions, in TPC sessions, on the simulator as well. He is better prepared for the idiosyncrasies of that car compared to any of the drivers who came before him, in my opinion. Furthermore, Red Bull seemingly are going to have to wind something back because that car got to such an extreme level of sensitivity being on the nose that even Max was starting to struggle to handle it. And that could well play into Liam's favour. Look, 2025 is a transitional season. It's a huge opportunity for them in 26 with their partnership with Ford, with taking their engine operation in-house for the first time ever. I think this is going to be a good year for Liam. I think he's going to be way closer than Checo was to Max. I think Red Bull will have learnt from a lot of their mistakes, and I'm going to say Liam Lawson gets at least one podium in 2025. Lock it in. Most disappointing, Aston Martin. I'm taking a big risk here because back in my 2021 predictions, I remember I put Fernando Alonso as my flop of the year, which aged awfully. However, it did result in a pretty funny thumbnail. Probably my favourite thumbnail I've ever done. There's just something about it that just gets me when I reacted to that prediction at the end of the season. But anyway, this is way less on Fernando and way more on the team themselves, Aston Martin, who I'm not expecting anything from them in 25. They're going to be struggling for points. I think that's really going to affect Fernando's motivation to pull it all out, right? Because it's 2026 or bust for him. That's when he's got his contract till. Newey's not joining till March. Enrico Cardile's barely got his feet under the table. And again, all of their focus is going to be on that 2026 project, because as much as this ground effect car started, well, at least 2023, it was looking good. They just never stepped forward at all. They completely stagnated. Kraken fellows are out with all of this managerial and this technical change. This 2025 car is just gonna be the bare minimum. You've got all these new brains coming in. They're not gonna be paying any attention. That's not pragmatic for them to pay any attention to 25. Honestly, just let this season just fly into the side of a mountain and finish rubbish and get loads of ATR, and then use that so that Adrian and Cardile have something to develop from 26 onwards, because that is surely their opportunity with Honda, you know, giving them a works entry, which has been the, you know, best power unit probably of recent times, the Honda. Any driver, when things are going against them, it's going to be tough to get motivated. But then you've got Lance in the other car, who very rarely brings much to the table as well. Look, as quality as Fernando Alonso is, we all know how capable he is. Yeah, 25 I think is a complete write-off for Aston Martin. I expect to be very disappointed by the team in green. Although I'll tell you what won't disappoint, today's video sponsor, Squarespace. See, having a website used to be reserved for businesses that spent time on developer costs and a bunch of code. Yet Squarespace has made it so accessible, so easy for anyone to build their own beautiful online home. Want to start a blog, host a portfolio, show reel, or maybe start your own small scale online store like I did selling these t-shirts? still available at TOMMO'SRacingGoods.com. Squarespace's Blueprint AI tools make it a breeze to get started with thousands of beautiful drag and drop templates helping you end with something that looks tip-top. It's free to try, only build when you want to publish your finished website to the world. Head to squarespace.com/TommoF1 to get 10% off of your very first website or domain. Closest teammates, Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. I'm drinking my tyre bias Kool-Aid, okay? It's a prediction, so I'm not technically wrong yet. I think Alex Albon is going to hold himself very, very well against Carlos Sainz. I do. And I'm biased, and you're going to have to deal with that. Now look, I'm talking closeness, not necessarily in terms of points, but in terms of performance, right? When we reflect on this at the end of the season, I'm going to be trying to look at, not just who numerically is closest, but the intangibles. How close have they really been on race pace? How close have they really been in qualifying? Is Carlos the better, more complete driver? Almost certainly, okay? But Alex is carrying an advantage, having been at Williams, having helped get them from where they were to where they are now. And I think over the course of a 24 race Formula 1 season, Carlos adapting to his new surroundings, I think it will balance out over the course of the year. I do. Now look, I've said this so many times, we really don't have much to go on to know exactly where Alex does stack up in the pecking order relative to the rest of the grid, relative to the top drivers in F1, whereas we know exactly where Carlos Sainz sits. The only thing I can think is looking at Alex's gap to Latifi relative to George's gap to Latifi, but even then that's a bit of a stretch. I just think they're both going to do really good. I think they're both at prime periods in their career, and they've both got a lot to prove. Carlos Sainz has to keep himself front and centre in the shop window if opportunities open up, and Alex Albon, this is the chance he's been waiting for to prove to everybody, not just me, because I believe it, right, but I'm a fan. So any of you out there who don't believe in Alex Albon, surely if he's close to Carlos this season, that will change your opinion, surely. This is his chance to prove you wrong. I think it will be tight. Points wise, could go either way. Rookie of the year, Gabriel Bortoleto. With 6 rookies, at least full-time season debut rookies, obviously Behrman and Lawson have been about, but you know what I mean. Debuting in 2025, I think maybe this is why I'm picking him, but I just feel like the world is sleeping on Gabriel Bortoleto. The kid's back-to-back F3 and F2 champion, for crying out loud, off of arguably the most competitive Formula 2 season of all time just last year. The rookie hype he's receiving is not befitting someone who's won both of the FIA's premier junior formulas back to back. Come on. Sauber was a tough team for Joe and Valtteri to show what they could do last year, but they did turn a corner late on in the season, and I think they will start this year as they ended last, by not being an absolute mile off the end and capable of getting into Q2 every now and then. Audi needs something to build off, and Binotto and the Audi board have clearly seen something in Gabriel that they're going to take this punt. And looking at the potential, looking at what previous back-to-back F3 and F2 champions in Leclerc, Russell and Piastri have all gone on to become, why can't Gabriel do the same? The ingredients are absolutely there. The potential is absolutely there. Right, quick one, right? Did you notice that I changed the colour of my pink from last year to this? If you did, then well done. You've been paying attention. You're probably already subscribed, but make sure you like the video and comment down below that you're very observant, okay? And if you didn't, then shame on you. But then look, I come back to the eyeballs not being on Gabriel so much. I think there's a lot more focus on Antonelli and Lawson and Behrman, but maybe that will actually stand in Gabriel's favour as well, and that's another reason why I think he will be strong this year, because the scrutiny is not going to be on him so much, right? He can afford to make mistakes when he's outside of the spotlight, mistakes that are necessary in improving and becoming a better Formula 1 driver. Actually, I'd say all of the other rookies have more scrutiny and spotlight on them. Doohan's already got Colapinto breathing down his neck. Hadjar has pretty low expectations, but is an organisation that demands greatness pretty quickly, and Lindblad's already got his super license, so if Hadjar starts stinking, they could put Lindblad in mid-season if they really wanted to. I do think Liam's going to improve big time, and I think he's going to close that gap to Max compared to what Checo had. However, I think the most impressive rookie of the season is going to be Gabriel Bortoleto. Get it done, son. So let's go through the Drivers' Championship, shall we? P20 to P1, the least points after 24 Grand Prix, all the way to the most. And we'll keep an eye on the teammate head-to-head and the Constructors' Championship as we go. P20, Jack Doohan. Look, this has most to do with the fact that I think Jack's going to get dropped way before the end of the season, probably at some point in the first half. I believe in Jack. I think there is ability there. However, that Franco pressure, it's going to be too much. They've clearly played Williams a bag, and they're not going to pay a bag to another team, a direct rival, to let him sit on the sidelines. Sorry, Jack, but you're P20 and last. P19, Isaac Hadjar. I feel like Isaac Hadjar's 2025 season is going to feel very much like Yuki Tsunoda's 2021 season. A lot of shunts, but maybe by the end of the year, 24 races is a lot of Grand Prix. You can develop a lot in that time. Maybe we'll start to see it because Isaac does have some raw talent, raw ability, raw speed there. Will we see it quick enough for him to not lose that seat to Arvid Lindblad? Because it feels like there's a lot more expectation and hope from Red Bull's point of view in Lindblad than there is in Hadjar. Plus, I think that Racing Bulls car is going to stink, which is going to help Isaac or Yuki's task at all. I just give them very, very little hope, and relative to the other teams, because it's always relative to the other teams, I just don't see them moving up. I only see them moving down, to be honest. P18, Lance Stroll. Bad car, frustratingly inconsistent driver who clearly lacks motivation compared to most of the other drivers on the grid. A recipe for disaster. I think another poor season from Lance is on the horizon. I really do. And I mean, there's rumours about him testing rally cars. So, look, will this be his last year in F1? I hope so, because I think other drivers deserve the seat he has more than he does. Stroll's capable of ad hoc decent results, which will get him a few points here and there, but because I think that Aston's going to be rubbish, and because the bottom 10 cars don't even score points, it's going to be very, very few and far in between. So, yeah, P18 Lance. Sorry, mate. P17, Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki's talent definitely justifies being higher on this list, but again, I'm just really struggling with this Racing Bulls car. I don't see any progress being made competitively, and I think it's going to be the worst car on the grid. He needs to get out of that dysfunctional Red Bull family, and I hope that even if the car's bad, it gives him the platform to showcase what he can really do and really put that pressure on Stroll, because clearly replacing Stroll at Aston Martin for 26 is the logical move for him, and he needs to showcase that he's not a rookie anymore. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. He's been in the sport for a while now. He needs to show, right, you can rely on me, Aston Martin, alongside Fernando Alonso for 26 onwards, maybe alongside Verstappen 26 onwards. So I hope he gets the chance to prove what he can do and where he is now, the driver he has become. So that's the first head-to-head done. Yuki Tsunoda ahead of Isaac Hadjar. Constructors-wise, Racing Bulls, P10 and last. Sorry, Faenza enjoyers, but somebody's got to be there. P16. Nico Hülkenberg, the first of the Saubers, and I'm going with Nico. He's a fantastic driver who, in my mid-season report last year, I put him P2, didn't I, behind Max? I think he is unbelievable, especially over a lap. You do have to wonder at 37 years of age. Nico is either at his peak or past his peak. There's no way he's improving at this age, of course not. Has he started to regress? I don't think so, but it will happen at some point. I imagine he'll probably stay the same, but with a rookie as exciting as Gabriel Bortoleto alongside him, look, Charles Leclerc, Marcus Ericsson, Charles wiped the floor with Marcus Ericsson. I think Hülkenberg is way better than Marcus Ericsson was in a Formula 1 car. But Bortoleto is going to give him something serious to think about. And look, Hülkenberg is the German driver at the German team from 26 onwards anyway, with Audi fully branding that team as their own. But again, when you're in a bottom 5 car, points opportunities are few and far between. There is more chance of a bit of an upset. Hence why I'm putting Hülkenberg behind Gabriel. P15, Gabriel Bortoleto. I do think he'll outscore Nico Hülkenberg in 2025. The chance of nothing unlikely happening is itself unlikely, right? It just takes one freak result and loads of people crash at the front and it can all completely turn on his head. But I just think Bortoleto is going to be absolute mustard and be close to Hülkenberg pretty quickly. It won't be a demolition job, don't get me wrong, right? I think performance-wise it will be close, but I'm saying Gabby wins out, which means he gets the head-to-head dub. Constructors-wise, that puts Sauber P9. P14, Fernando Alonso. Fernando is well known for getting performance out of any car he drives. Good, bad, mid. It will be enough to make up for Lance's misgivings, and I just really, really hope Fernando is able to maintain his own levels, his own standards. I don't think Fernando's at his prime. I don't think he can be when he's well into his 40s, but just this level where he can fight for a title in 2026, because I would absolutely love to see that happen. This year, just Fernando, focus on yourself, focus on keeping yourself fresh and healthy, and do what you can do in the races with the equipment you've got. If it's trash, then you bank the ATR, mate. You bank the ATR, and that's what Adrian's going to need to cook, okay? You're playing the long game here. You're going to beat Lance in your head-to-head, which means Aston Martin, I'm putting them P8s in the Constructors' Championship. Not good for their share price, which is still 90% down from when I invested. Never mind, you win some, you lose some, mate. P13. Esteban Ocon. Esteban's an absolute top racing driver. You know that I think that, okay? I fully believe that. Things didn't work out at Alpine. I'm sure he'll have taken a degree of introspection and learned why. I hope so. Anyway, reflected on what was good, what was bad. I think him and Pierre Gasly was a recipe for disaster, and that's exactly how it turned out in the end. Esteban was very paranoid that he wasn't getting the machinery that Pierre was towards the end, and whether that's true or not, we'll never know. And I don't think Pierre was any quicker than Esteban fundamentally as a racing driver, but more valuable as a commodity, and didn't make the enemies that Esteban has over the course of his career. I think Haas will suit Esteban much better. It's a ragtag small team. He's come from nothing. Like, his grow up story is unbelievable, right? The fact he made it to F1's a miracle, and I really hope it works out for him. However, I'm gonna say he's gonna finish behind his teammate. P12, Oliver Behrman. British bias alert, actually. That Chelmsford bias alert. I've got a lot of time for Ollie Behrman. Of course I have. We had our long old chat at the start of the year while he was still only 18 years of age, for crying out loud. Going into that chat, I had my expectations, but genuinely, he is such a mature, level-headed kid. I thought I was talking to a 28-year-old, not an 18-year-old. So when he got chucked into that Ferrari opportunity only, what, a few months after, I wasn't surprised that he took to it well and I think performed very admirably. He had Lando and Lewis charging down at the back and kept his cool, kept it clean, and got the points. Baku and Brazil were both solid performances too. Look, given his relative lack of experience and being chucked in and replacing drivers late on, you know, I think he did a very good job. He's carrying an advantage in terms of understanding that team, Haas, and what that car needs. Obviously, Esteban has way more experience in F1, which counts for a lot. But I've got a good feeling about Ollie. You know, he's going to have his prangs, he's going to have his moments, but I also think he's going to have some worldy performances. I really do. Ferrari are looking at him closely to replace Lewis when Lewis eventually retires from the sport. You know, Haas is the perfect team right now for him, Cadillac next year, right? For him to grow and develop and become that Ferrari driver for the future. That means Ollie wins the head-to-head with Esteban Ocon Haas and puts Haas P5 in my Constructors' Championship. P6, sorry, what am I talking about? P6. P11, Carlos Sainz. Controversial take alert, Carlos Sainz is P11 in my 2025 F1 predictions, season predictions, whatever this video is called. And I haven't mentioned his teammate yet, which means I'm putting him behind Alex Albon. Look, cry about it in the comments. It helps with the video's engagement, okay? Carlos will bring an unbelievable technical mind, not just a racing driver mind, to that team, the best driver they've had for a very long time, I think. Look, he leaves teams in better states than when he joins them. So that's good. That's a very good omen for Williams. I think that relationship's going to thrive. I think they're going to do bits. But I'm still putting him behind Alex. P10, Alex Albon. Look, I've already said they're going to be really closer than any other teammate pairing in Formula 1. I've got to back my boy. I'm going to put him ahead of Carlos. Come on. It's my list, so I'm going to do it. I'm allowed to believe in my driver. And when you look at his career, which has been far from plain sailing, those peaks and troughs, look, you learn most in life from your mistakes. The things that don't work out. And I feel like Alex is very measured, very well-rounded, not super like competitive, fierce giant like a Verstappen, nowhere near, right? But I feel like he knows what he wants, he knows what his strengths are, he knows how to get the best out of himself in that Williams car, a tricky Williams car, which, you know, he's fallen foul of, as has Franco, as did Logan as well. Bedded into that team in the prime of his career, and I do believe he has the potential to be one of the best drivers in Formula 1. One of, right? One of. And we've just not seen him able to prove that yet, but I think Sainz is that opportunity for him to step up and show the world, I'm actually that guy. There's no reason for him to believe that the team would be favouring Carlos at all. Come on, Alex. You can do it, son. Please don't make me look silly. Alex wins the head-to-head against Carlos Sainz, but I'm not quite ready to reveal their constructor's position just yet. P9, Pierre Gasly. Now, if there's one name, one man that gives me the belief that Pierre Gasly is going to be the best of the rest in Formula 1 in 2025, It's not Pierre himself. It's not Flavio Briatore. It's not Ollie Oaks. It's not Franco Colapinto. It's technical director David Sanchez. Go watch my video about David Sanchez, the man who was at Ferrari, went to McLaren, didn't work at McLaren, left after like 3 months, joined Enstone, and was pivotal in them turning around their 2024 season, which started in the absolute dumps and finished pretty strong. He gave Pierre a car that reminded me of the Pierre Gasly we saw in 2021, right? What a driver he was then, what a driver he's always been since, but I think he needs that car to showcase his ability, as does any driver, of course. He knows how to hold the pressure. He's in the prime of his career as well. These lads are all very similar in age. He's got a lot to show, and of course Gasly does win out on the head-to-head versus Jack Doohan. And then from a constructor's point of view, Alpine, I'm putting them P6, Williams P5. Now, as I said in my driver predictions, I do think Colapinto will come in to replace Jack Doohan in the first half of the season. I do think that will happen. Colapinto will score his fair share of points, although I'm not going to try and predict a driver that isn't even on the grid where they're going to finish in the Drivers' Championship. No, the prediction is Gasly will finish ahead of both of his teammates, and both Williams and Alpine will get P6 in the Constructors. P8, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. I have so many questions about Antonelli and so many questions about his car. This combo feels like the most difficult to predict, so it's probably a bit of a cop-out putting in P8, but that's what we're doing. Is he going to be rapid out of the gate but crashy? That's probably my best guess, and I'm sure obviously that Monza shunt doesn't exactly help because Toto was talking up his lap like it was the best thing he'd ever seen. The Mercedes package, so inconsistent. You know, when the temperature was right, they could absolutely smash it and just walk it like they did in Vegas. I don't know, I feel like the flexi wing stuff's coming in as well. Round 9 Barcelona, that's going to change up the front running order a bit as well. Mercedes, McLaren have had a bit more flexi than Ferrari and Red Bull. Look, I expect mistakes from Antonelli, and of course I do. He's a rookie. He's an 18-year-old kid. He's only just got his driving license, right? And he's going to make mistakes. He has to make mistakes, and he's going to be in the spotlight, so it's going to be tough. And geez, the older I get, the more I look at these kids, I think 18 years old, I wouldn't have trusted myself to look after Minton, let alone the FW16 or whatever it is. I mean the W16, the FW16 is the Williams. Anyway, P7, Liam Lawson. I've already waxed lyrical about Liam. I think he'll improve significantly. That gap between him and Max will be way smaller than it was between Max and Checo. He certainly won't finish 285 points shy. I reckon, my prediction, Lawson finishes within 100 points of Max Verstappen. P6, George Russell. George had a big year in 24, showcased to me that he's already capable, if you give him the car, to fight for a driver's title. I do now believe that. It took me a while with George, but I'm like, I feel like he's there now. But asking him to finish ahead of both Ferraris and both McLarens and Max in 25 over a 24 race season, I think that's too far. I think George will win races, more than one race. I'm very, very sure of that. Are Mercedes going to be able to achieve that level of consistency that you can mount a title fight, right? You have to be up there all the time. You can't afford to have weekends where you're finishing P7 and 8. You need to be like podium every weekend minimum. Otherwise, it's not happening. For me, Mercedes' opportunity is for 2026, and 2025 is about, you know, maybe they give him a car and it's a single driver title fight, which is probably better from a driver's title point of view, not so much from a constructor's. Maybe they do that, but I feel like the opportunity is 26. You know, everyone's expecting Mercedes to have the best engine. I'm sure they will have learned from a lot of the mistakes that they've made so far, made the changes needed to not cock up these new regs like they did these current ones. George has got it in him, for sure. I just don't trust that Mercedes have fixed all their problems to be consistently competitive at the front like Ferrari and McLaren will be. George wins the head-to-head with Kimi, meaning Mercedes are P4 in the Constructors' Championship. P5, Lewis Hamilton. Trying to predict where Lewis is going to finish in 2025 is tough. He'll be in a car that should be at least as good as the McLaren, if not, you know, second best car over the course of the season. I've got very little doubt it's going to be McLaren, Ferrari going for it. And obviously the teams that get a good start early on are more likely to carry on plundering, pushing for those 2025 cars to get quicker and quicker. If you're Red Bull and Mercedes and you're comfortably third, fourth quickest team after the first 8 races, whatever it is, there's not really that much incentive to carry on pushing because you know you've got 2026 coming up, and it's a way more pragmatic use of your resources to focus on that. Maybe they'll wait until the round 9 Barcelona flexi wing changes. Maybe that will make a big difference. that remains to be seen. This is Ferrari's best opportunity for a driver's world title in a long time, like a really, really long time. Even better, I think, than, you know, Vettel's challenges in 17 and 18. So if any team's going to throw the absolute kitchen sink behind this season to get it done, it's Ferrari, but I don't think it's going to be Lewis. I do think he's lost his edge in qualifying, and it's super important in qualifying because the dirty air is only going to get dirtier. He's in a foreign car, foreign team, right, that he's never worked at before. Foreign, I don't just mean Italian, as in foreign, as in it's just not what he's used to. And he's against a driver in Charles Leclerc who I think is better than George Russell. He's well established in that Ferrari team. P5 is where I land. Sorry, Lewis, I just don't see him finishing ahead of both McLarens, Leclerc or Verstappen. P4, Max Verstappen. This sounds sacrilege, and of course it's no reflection on Max's ability. He is the best driver in Formula 1 right now and has been for a while. But Red Bull's development has stagnated and they've struggled and they've gone down, you know, rabbit holes and tried to get this car more drivable, and even Max's skill has not been able to mask the twitchiness. Look, I just don't think they'll give him the equipment to win the championship. Do I think he will still do amazing things and still be in that fight until the very end? I absolutely do. I could see the top four being within 50 points by the end of the season. I could see more than 2 drivers going into the finale at Abu Dhabi with a mathematical chance of winning the championship. Absolutely could see that. Max will maximise the package that Red Bull give him, but I don't think the package that Red Bull give him will be good enough to win the World Championship over 24 races and make him a 5-time world champion. I just don't think that's going to happen. Which means Max wins the head-to-head against Liam Lawson and Red Bull will finish 3rd in the Constructors. P3, Lando Norris. Gave this a lot of thought, I did. But I'm saying Lando P3 in the 2025 F1 World Drivers' Championship. That's my prediction. I know this one will not be popular. I know there's fans out there who think any slight criticism of their driver is hate. Let's grow up. Fact of the matter is, it's never that deep. I've never for a minute doubted Lando's ability behind the wheel. That goes without any shred of doubt, right? Qualifying, he's unbelievable. So good. Tyre management over a race distance, top tier. What I question is, does he have that winning mentality? That absolute determination to win at all costs that Lewis and Max and even drivers like George and obviously someone like Fernando, these drivers have demonstrated. Mexico last year was good. He showed in that race, right, okay, these are the rules. I'm not going to let you bully me off track, Max. And Lando ultimately did come out on top there. But can he do that over the entire season? It helps, I think, that Max probably won't be as competitive in 2025, right? And I think Lando is going to have a easier relative to Max time fighting with Leclerc and Piastri. I know he didn't crash, but you look at Singapore, man, and he made so many mistakes. Lead in the front. Just like, does he have that focus? He will. I just don't know if 2025 he's going to be there yet. I think Lando's inherent style is very, very fair. I think it always has been. But when you're at the very, very top, is that going to hinder you more than it helps? If Lando Norris does win in 2025, I would not be surprised, okay? He's got the minerals, he's got that raw speed, he's got that tyre management, okay? And if he can learn and implement changes from what went wrong last year into this year, he's absolutely in with a fight. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I'm putting in P3. P2, Oscar Piastri. So I've put Oscar P2 ahead of Lando Norris. The same Lando Norris that outqualified Oscar Piastri 24-6, including sprints, last year, outscored Oscar Piastri 374 to 292 last year. On the face of it, I get why a lot of people might find this a ludicrous take. But hear me out, let me explain. The crux of it for me is experience, lack of, right? And I just want to remind everyone where these two drivers are relative to one another at McLaren. Going into the 2024 season, right, last year, Oscar only had 22 race starts to his name because, of course, 23 was his first year. Then by the time that Miami upgrade came last year to the McLaren, which then kind of catapulted it to probably the best car for the remainder of the season for most of the time, he'd only had 27 race starts to his name. And right now, at the end of 24, ahead of 2025, he has 46 race starts. Now, compare those same time frames from Lando Norris's point of view. At the start of 2024, Lando had 104 race starts to his name. By the Miami upgrade, he had 109, and right now, 128 F1 race starts. Sure, most of Lando's time at McLaren has been him fighting in midfield machinery, more so than top tier, you know, up the front. but it's still at McLaren, it's still at that organisation, right? It's still within that environment. I think that Lando and Oscar's peaks last year were pretty similarly impressive. I do. I think Oscar's performance at Baku was unbelievable, and I think Lando's performances at, well, Singapore, the mistakes, right? But Zandvoort was a Max Verstappen-esque, right, domination. But of course, Lando was way more consistent than Oscar in delivering those peaks, okay? Of course he was. So then going into 25, the question I'm thinking is, what is more likely? Does Lando get on top of the cutting edge mentality he needs to win a world title? Or does Oscar get on top of the consistency that he needs to win a world title? There's great arguments on both sides, but I just think my prediction falls ever so slightly on the side of the Aussie, because I think there's more theoretical ceiling for his performance to grow into, whereas Lando's been around long enough that I feel like you can argue, well, he's not been fighting at the front long enough to really develop that cutthroat mentality. Perhaps. I don't know. It's a prediction. And my prediction is Oscar Piastri wins the head-to-head against his teammate Lando Norris. And the constructors will hold on that front. P1, Charles Leclerc. No surprise if you've been watching my stuff, I'm predicting Charles Leclerc to win the 2025 F1 Drivers' World title. Ferrari should, over the course of this season, have the best, if not joint, if not second best car to McLaren. There's no excuses now. There's really not. And of the 4 drivers in those 2 teams, Charles, Lewis, Oscar, and Lando, I think Charles the best. I think he's the second best driver in F1 behind Max Verstappen. Unbelievable over a lap. Unbelievable in wheel-to-wheel combat. I think that's his biggest overlooked thing. Race management, tyre management, top tier. Knows how to race Max, knows how to race Lewis, right? He's got everything. He's finding his voice at Ferrari, which I think he did struggle with for a while, but I think he's really getting into that, and he really trusts Fred, and they've got a great relationship, a great mutual understanding, and he's getting on top of the mistakes that he did used to make. For sure, he did used to make too many mistakes, but I feel like 2024 was his cleanest season yet. I think it's Ferrari and Charles Leclerc's time to shine, and I think Charles is going to get it done, which means head-to-head wise, Charles Leclerc beats Lewis Hamilton. Constructors wise, with the 2 McLaren drivers on smoke, I think they're going to be right behind Charles. I really do, both of them. Lewis isn't going to quite be able to hold up his end of the bargain, and therefore Ferrari will once again finish P2 in the Constructors' Championship behind McLaren, back-to-back Constructors' World Champions. Thoughts and feelings in the comments below. As always, shout out again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.